All right. Starting a little early. I'm going to test the microphone out here to make sure everything is on and ready to go. Testing, testing, 1, 2. Testing, testing, 1, 2. All right. Got the lights on. It's not the greatest in the world, but it's what we got. So there we go. All right. All right, microphone is on, and I believe we are good to go. Almost 7 o'clock. Getting ready to go and start the live Q&A. All right. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. We're in a smaller room, and I've got this big lamp sitting in front of me, shining a light on my face, making it easier for people to see. Whether or not that's a good thing, it's up for them to decide. But yeah, Mimi is not home yet. I hope she comes home soon. If not, it's cool. I'll just handle it. We'll do it. Disney assembled one person. One person. All right. So as we're doing our live discussion, feel free to put things in the chat, questions, topics for discussion, anything like that. That's all good. We'll probably be on for, I don't know. I have no idea how long. 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Depends on the discussion. If we have a good conversation going, we have people joining in, then that'll be fine. All right, it is 7 o'clock. Hey, howdy, hey. Welcome to Disney Assembled Live here on YouTube. I am Troy, and Mimi is not here yet. So she is out with mom. That's all good. We're going to get it started. Hopefully, she'll be coming in before we sign out tonight. If not, then, oh well, there it is. So recently, our family decided to do an unplanned 2-day Walt Disney World trip. And if you listen to this week's episode that came out on Sunday, we talked a lot. We talked a little bit about how we planned that trip, how we ended up deciding to do that trip. And so we decided we want to do a live Q&A because we are going to do more episodes about the trip itself, but certainly people may have questions about being at Walt Disney World or what it was like to just be there for 2 days and all that good stuff. And we thought it'd be cool to just jump on our YouTube channel, which we have been wanting to do more of anyway, and just have a conversation with all you nice people about that. So why don't I provide a little context? Certainly, if you listen to this week's show, some of what I'm about to share might be familiar to you because we talked about this a little bit this week. And my glasses are going to be going on and off because everything's blurry without them. So we recently, as a family, decided to do a road trip. And the road trip did not have Disney World as part of the plan. As a matter of fact, the words Disney World or Walt Disney World or Orlando didn't even come up in any of the discussions or any of the planning that we were doing before we took the trip. So the trip was originally designed to do a couple of things. One, my son wants to see a Major League Baseball game at all the Major League parks. So we thought we would do a road trip and try to catch 2 games to mark 2 stadiums off his list. We also wanted to drive and see some very good friends of ours that we haven't seen in a number of years. And they live in Savannah, Georgia. And then we sort of planned a trip around that. So we left our home in Texas, drove. We spent the night in Birmingham, Alabama, where we have friends. One of Mimi's best friends, if not her best friend, lives in Birmingham. We stopped in Birmingham, spent the night there, got up the next day, and that was the 4th of July. So on the 4th of July, that morning, we drove from Birmingham to Atlanta, which was only about 2 hours drive, wasn't very far. Went to Atlanta for 4th of July and watched a baseball game. The Braves played the Marlins. It was actually a really good game. The Braves were losing late. They tied it up and went to extra innings. It was a lot of drama. And it was a really exciting, very entertaining baseball game. So we went to the game in Atlanta, spent the night in Atlanta, and then on the 5th, woke up and drove to Savannah. And so the drive from Atlanta to Savannah was a few hours. Got to Savannah and stayed with our friends who have a condo. They're retired. They have a condo in Savannah. So we did that for a couple of days. Went out to the ocean, played on the beach. Weather was nice. Ate some seafood. It was a fine time. Went to Savannah. Visited the Savannah College of Arts and Design, which is a school that Mimi is interested in for college. Um, so we did that for a couple of days. Now, on our last, I would say our last full day in Savannah, the next morning we were supposed to wake up, pack the car, and drive to Tampa. And then we were going to spend, and that's like a 5 hour drive from Savannah to Tampa, 5.5 hours. So we were going to go to Tampa, spend the night, catch a baseball game in Tampa, spend that night, and then drive from Tampa back home to Texas. Now, that was the plan. However, in our last full day in Savannah, um, the idea came up of, well, if we're going to be in Tampa, Orlando is only, a couple hours away. Do we want to try to see if we can just do maybe a day in Disney, like drive to Orlando, spend the night, do one day at Disney, leave, drive back to Texas. In Texas, or I'd say from Orlando to our house is about 14 and a half hours. So we were looking at that. Now, part of the reason we were able to do it is because we do have a friend who lives in Orlando. She lives about 30 minutes from Disney World, about 30-minute drive, and she was not home and had said, "Look, if y'all want to come by, here's the code to get in the house. You're welcome to stay if you want to come by and spend a couple of days." So without having to pay for lodging, without having to pay for a resort, the expense of doing 2 full days of 4 people, 2 days with park hopper tickets in Disney World made it somewhat tolerable. But what I will tell you is it's a lot of money to spend for 2 days in the park for 4 people. We didn't have the time to spend more time there because I do know that the more days you add, the more you save per day. But we paid a good amount of money for 2 days in the park. Now, our goal was to see, can we do this trip on the cheap? How cheap can we do this? We didn't have to pay to fly. We didn't have to pay for a resort. We got our park passes with Park Hopper because we only had 2 days and we wanted to see all 4 parks. So we made sure we got the Park Hopper option. But the kids had to understand, the children had to understand that we weren't going to be buying food and drinks all day. We weren't buying souvenirs. And that was the big challenge. Can we do this trip without spending hundreds of dollars on souvenirs and without spending, $200 a day on food and drinks, $200, $200, $300 a day on food and drinks for the 4 of us. So how do we do that? Well, we were successful in doing that. We talked about it on this week's episode. We packed water bottles and we refilled them all day. The only time we bought a drink was at dinner. We bought one meal and that was our dinner. And we bought quick service dinner. It just so happens that both nights we were in Disney World and Tomorrowland, and we went to Cosmic Rays, Starlight Cafe. We used the mobile ordering app, which was fantastic. And that was our 2 meals. So we packed sandwiches, we packed snacks, we packed water. That's what we ate until dinner every single day. And we woke up and we got to the park for when they opened both days. And we pretty much stayed until the park we were in. And we ended both days at Magic Kingdom. And Magic Kingdom was open till 10 p.m. both of those days. So we were there till 10 o'clock both days. So from Sunday, went on a Sunday and a Monday. It was from opening to close both days. We were pretty tired, but we got 2 full days in. We spent less than $200 on food in the 2 days because, like I said, we only bought that one meal each day. And I would say for the four of us, we ate for $70, I think, total. We just bought hamburger and or hot dogs and with fries and a drink. So I think it came to like $70 total for each of us. I mean, not for each, just for the family. So we spent about $140 on food. We did buy one souvenir for the family, which we do every time we go to a Disney park. We buy a pin set for the year that we went. So we bought a set of 2021 pins to add to our pin collection. Mimi did get two souvenirs. She got two ears. And the reason we agreed to buy that for her was because at both of the baseball games we went to for our son, we bought him a hat at both games. So she didn't get a souvenir at the ballpark. She got two sets of Mickey ears or two sets of ears on the trip. So that was it. We didn't buy any other souvenirs. We didn't buy any other food. The only other expense we had was parking because we drove our own car to the park. We paid for preferred parking, so we'd park very close to the entrance. So we dropped the $50 each day to do preferred parking. And that parking pass is good all day at every park. So even when we park hopped, we could park in the reserved or the preferred lot at every park that we went to. And I'm going to tell you, there are a couple of things I would recommend. Number one, the buses are slow. They're jammed full of people, and people are waiting a long time for Disney buses. So if you're at the park and you're thinking about doing transportation, if you have a car and you're willing to pay the $50 to do preferred parking, we were park hopping from one park to another, and it was taking us less than 15 minutes to get from one park to another. You can't beat that time. You can't beat it with a monorail, and you can't beat it on the buses. So if you're there for a short amount of time, you want to get the most out of the experience, I would recommend the preferred parking and driving. If you don't want to do that, just fine. I mean, if you're on site and you don't want to get in your car, you want to leave it parked, and you want to do Disney transportation, there's nothing wrong with that. But we had 2 days and we wanted to get as much in as possible. And driving and using preferred parking was definitely the way to go for us to do that. Again, if you're watching live and you want to ask a question about our trip, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we will certainly chime in and answer those questions. But those were the big highlights from the big view. The mobile ordering was fantastic. I love the mobile ordering for food. I love not having to wait in a line, being able to go to the diner, sit, know when the food is ready, go get the food, sit down, eat the food, and go. So I love the mobile ordering. I'm glad that's around. I hope that doesn't go anywhere. How were the lines? That's a great question. Andrew asked, well, how are the lines? Remember, there aren't really any fast passes. Now, what I will tell you is there were people going in and out of attractions through the fast pass line. And I don't know exactly, I could be wrong, but I think there were two reasons why people were were being allowed to use fast pass lines. Number one, there were rides that were breaking down during the day. And I think as rides broke down, sometimes people were given access to use fast pass lines as sort of Disney making it up to them. But the second was, I want to believe, and I think I heard this, but I can't confirm it, that maybe first responders or military personnel were being allowed to go through fast pass lines. Again, I think that's more of a rumor than a substantiated claim. But there were people going through. There were single rider lines that some people were taking advantage of, and that was a good thing. Other than that, I would say we didn't wait more. First of all, there's no social distancing, Andrew, with COVID. So people were lined up, and you were regular lines. I mean, you were lined up regularly, and no one was wearing masks. The only masking that was required was on the monorail or on the bus. And we did take the monorail a couple of times. And if you listen to the show, we didn't have the greatest experience on the monorail. But you did have to wear a mask on the monorail. But the lines were lines. You were just standing in line as you normally would. So I would say without fast passes, the lines move quicker. And the reason for that is everyone now has to wait. With Fast Pass, if people are coming through and getting on, it stops the standby line from moving because the Fast Pass people are getting on. So I think we didn't have to wait more than, I'd say the longest wait we had was for Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom, because we got to Animal Kingdom a little bit. We got there when it said it was opening, but I will say this: every park was opening early. So if they said they were opening at 8, they were actually letting people in at 7, 7:15, 7:30. Now you may not be able to get on the ride, but you could get in the park and get in line for your ride. And so we got to Flight of Passage, and it was going to be about a 70-minute wait. And I would say it took 70 minutes for us to get on. The line was, here's a fun fact about Flight of Passage, and we'll probably mention this in our episode when we talk about Animal Kingdom. From the point at which you go through the main entrance of the line, which is where they have the Fast Pass sign and the standby sign, from that point to where you get on the ride is a 1 mile line. We were easily over a mile beyond that. So we stood in line we walked a couple of miles of line to get on Flight of Passage, which again was no big deal. It only took about 60 minutes, and so forth. So without ride spoiling, how was Pandora? I didn't mind it. I don't do 3D motion simulators very well. I don't do Star Tours. It makes me nauseous. Um, I was okay on Pandora, frankly, because I closed my eyes when there were parts where I thought I was going to get um, weirded out. But I would say the other members of my family have universally said it's probably their favorite ride. My wife who is not a huge Disney fan and who is no big Disney parks fan, was audibly impressed. She could not stop talking about how impressed she was with that attraction. So Flight of Passage, it was definitely a family favorite. But yeah, the lines were what they were. You know, I think Mimi and my wife waited over an hour, like 90 minutes, to do Seven Dwarfs Mine Train on our last night there. And that was probably the longest line any of us stood in. They were probably in line for about 90 minutes to do that. Other than that, we waited in line anywhere from 5 minutes, 10 minutes to 30 minutes, on average, 20 or 30 minutes. Some of the lines, I would say, is in Magic Kingdom, whatever line time they had, it was always shorter. In the other parks, I felt the times were pretty accurate. But park wasn't full, but it had a lot of people. Did y'all stay at night too? Yeah, we were there till it closed. So day one, we started at Hollywood Studios, and we park hopped to Magic Kingdom at 2 o'clock, because park hopping, you can't get in the next park until 2 o'clock. We tried at Epcot to get in early. They wouldn't let us in early. But on day one, we started at Hollywood Studios, and then we did Magic Kingdom, and we stayed till it closed. I mean, they weren't letting people in line to do anything else, and we left at that point. On day two, we started the day at Animal Kingdom. Then we went to Epcot and did what we wanted to do at Epcot, except for Frozen Ever After was one of the things we did not get to do on the trip. And then we left Epcot we were only at Epcot for about 3 hours. We did Spaceship Earth twice. And the second time we got on it was just a walk on. There was nobody waiting to get on. And then we left and went into Magic Kingdom, and we got there on day two, we got there around 6 o'clock, because we went straight to get food, and we wanted to go to Tomorrowland. So we ate at Cosmic Rays again. I think we all ordered the same food 2 days in a row. And then we stayed there till they closed at 10. So we were there both days, all day. What else do you want to know? I would do 2 days again if I was in the area. I wouldn't plan a 2 day trip. So we're looking to go again, possibly in November. But if we go in November, we're going to do we're going to be there for like 5 or 6 days. The difference in price. So here's an interesting fact. We paid X number of dollars for 2 days to get the same exact park hopper tickets for 6 days was less than twice what we paid, if that makes sense. So as you add days, it got exponentially cheaper. Now, if we were looking, so we even looked at going for 5 days. The difference between going for 6 days over 5 days was like $75 total. So the longer you stay, the cheaper it is per day. Hey, Danny, good to hear from you. Just wanted to hear. Yeah, I did. We heard all of Cosmic Ray's jokes. But the kids were saying them all the way home about his girl has 19 eyes and multiple noses, and she really blows him away. And yeah, the jokes just kept coming. The Cosmic Rays. To be truthful, though, I mean the quick service options aren't plentiful on the app. There's only like maybe one spot per land, maybe. So you didn't have, and so if you were in Tomorrowland, it was really the only place to do mobile ordering from. And I didn't mind because I actually liked the hot dog at Cosmic Rays. It was big. It was filled. It was very filling. And, for, I think it was $13, and it was a giant foot long hot dog with chili and cheese. And you got a bunch of fries and a drink for $13. I thought that was a really good deal. And so I had that 2 days in a row, and I think everyone else had my wife had hot dog too, but I think cheeseburgers were all about the same price. Yeah, good old Cosmic Ray. I don't think we'll be eating at Cosmic Ray next time we go. There was one thing we wanted to do. We couldn't get dining reservations because we didn't plan the trip. My wife really likes Tony's on Main Street in the Magic Kingdom. And I know if we go back in November, she would really like us to have a meal together at Tony's. So we'll see. I don't regret going. It was a ton of fun. Like I said, my wife and my son are not huge Disney fans. They don't really love going to the park as much as Mimi and I do. But I will tell you, both of them had a great time. I mean, he was really mad that we were going, my son. He was like, we don't need to be spending money on this. But he had a great time, especially on the last night. One of the things we did on the last night was my wife took my daughter off, and I had my son, and we just spent time one-on-one with each of them, and that was a lot of fun. No, I didn't talk about Rise of the Resistance yet. We did do Rise of the Resistance on day one. So it was interesting. At 7 a.m., we were both at the house that we were staying in, and we were refreshing the app, and Mimi was actually the one that got the reservation. I didn't get it. So she and I both pressed the button right around the same time, and she got the image to get a reservation, and I got the sorry, there are no reservations image. So she did great. What did I think of Rise Resistance? I don't know. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I'll say this. I really enjoyed it. And what I'm so glad, because Florida, COVID aside, we got to do the whole ride. Because I know at the beginning when they just opened, there were parts that you skipped. Like you didn't do the pre-show, you didn't do the part where Ray tells you what's going on. We did the whole ride is open now. So we started in, getting the transmission and Ray coming on and telling you, thank you for joining, and getting in the shuttle, and Poe in the following you and then getting captured and all that stuff. So we did the whole ride. As far as I know, everything was working. I didn't pick up. Here's what wasn't working in the park when we were going through, and I don't think they were closed, but they just had the only things that had technical issues while we were trying to do them. Was Splash Mountain was not working when we got to Magic Kingdom. It wasn't closed. It just wasn't working. So they didn't have people riding it. Um, we didn't get to do Frozen Ever After. We were in line for it and it shut down. And I had heard that they were having significant technical problems with that all weekend, that it was constantly going down. It was raining, so Test Track was closed. We didn't do Test Track because they closed it because it was the rain and they weren't running it in the rain. But as far as I know, those were the only things that for technical reasons weren't working. But Rise worked perfectly fine for us. We did the whole thing. There's so much going on in that attraction that you almost have to ride it multiple times because I was trying to look for things, and I mean, you get moved around, and your car spins, and you can't possibly take everything in. That's my takeaway from it. It's so everything's happening so in your face. It's unlike watching a video. If you're watching a video of it, you're just kind of seeing what's going on. But when you're riding it, you can't. I couldn't pick up on everything that was going on as things are going on all around you. So, yeah, I really did enjoy Rise of Resistance. So, which rides that I enjoy the most? Rise of Resistance is up there. I didn't dislike Smuggler's Run. Again, I'm not big on motion simulators, so I was kind of like, but I wasn't a pilot. I was a gunner for Smuggler's Run. I thought it was kind of neat. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to be the pilot because, like I said, I don't do motion simulators really well. But riding it as a gunner or an engineer just to be in there and do it, that was fun. Um, I thought Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was really cool. I like how they did that. I thought that was actually the very first attraction we did in the whole thing. Right when we got in Hollywood Studios, we went straight there and did that first. So, yeah, but I enjoyed that. I thought Slinky Dog Dash was okay. It was a lot. I'm not a big coaster guy. It was a lot more intense than I thought it would be. It's not scary intense. As roller coasters go, it's relatively mild, but it was much more than I thought it was going to be. But we did that one. So those, Hollywood Studios, we got a lot done in a relatively short amount of time. I didn't do any of the milk. I didn't do the blue. Like I said, we were not buying stuff, so we didn't buy blue milk. We didn't buy green milk. We didn't get any of the thermal detonator shaped colas. We just were not going to spend money on that for this trip. Next trip, we might splurge a little bit, but this one was really a test. It was because one of the things we told the kids, if we want to do this more often, we can't go all out and have a ginormous trip every time we go. So, especially with Mimi and I doing the podcast, if we want to go more often, we've got to be able to do it on the cheap. And so we didn't splurge on stuff like that. I will tell you in Galaxy's Edge, and again, a lot of this stuff we'll talk about in the podcast later in future episodes. Heldner actually played Sabak. So there's a lady or a cast member who was having to be a female when we were by. They sell Sabak games. You can buy the card, whatever the Han Solo and Lando played, right? They have the game. You can buy it and play it, the card game. But people don't know how to play. So she's out sort of like it's kind of like in a market square part of Galaxy's Edge. And she plays Sabak with people who want to come by. They want to learn how to play. So she's playing the game. She's teaching the game to people in hopes that people will obviously buy the game. But Heldner played Sabak. He lost. It's a little complicated. It's not an easy game to figure out, but that was kind of interesting. I could have spent more time in Galaxy's Edge. I really would have. We didn't explore a lot of the little Easter eggs and stuff that were all over because we got, like I said, we knew we wanted to park hop that first day. So, we did Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway first. We were in the first group to get in, so we did that first. And we immediately went over to Toy Story Land. There was no wait at all for Toy Story Mania. It was a walk on. And that's my wife's favorite. She loves Toy Story Mania. So we did Toy Story Mania right away. Then we did the Alien Saucers. And then we got in line for Slinky Dog. That was probably about an hour. We waited maybe 45, 50 minutes for Slinky Dog. And then after that, we made our way over to Galaxy's Edge. And what did we do there? We just walked around. We took some pictures, explored a little bit, had a snack. And then right around that time, our boarding group was being called. So, Dane, that's a great question. We entered in originally on the side we should not have entered. We entered in on the Toy Story side. We went all the way through and out, and then we came back in through on the other side, past by Star Tours, and that's the side I would suggest everyone do not go in. The much better side to enter in is the side opposite of Toy Story Land. It's a much better entrance. It kind of transitions really, really well, and and then you feel like you're on another world. From the other side, it kind of wasn't quite as good. But we went in both ways because we actually went out and came back in. Saw the Millennium Falcon. That was kind of cool. I thought it was cool. I couldn't get any of the people in my family to care that much about it. But I was like, wow, that's really neat. But we didn't do a lot of stuff. We didn't go to the droid factory. We didn't have reservations to do the lightsaber building thing. I mean, these were all high dollar extras that we weren't doing this trip. That, again, we may do in future trips. Oh, my text. So yeah, I would have liked to have stayed more. If we go back in November for multiple days, I'm going to stay longer in Galaxy's Edge. I would have liked without, and I didn't feel pressure, but I knew that once we did Rise, once we did Smuggler's Run, well, that was a long wait. We just, we had to get through and get out. And there was really nothing else in Hollywood Studios for us to do. We weren't going to do Tower of Terror. We weren't going to do Rock and Roller Coaster that day. And we're not really into those rides. I mean, Mimi may have wanted to do them, and my wife would have done them with her, but my son and I were not into that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can look through the bar and the gift shops, whatever to buy. Yeah, I mean, I think we were more worried about time. We had to get by the time we finished everything, and the kids, they all did Star Tours. I didn't do Star Tours. I wanted to find, after I got home, I forgot about this. I wanted to find the Potato Land exhibit in Hollywood Studios. I think it's one of the funniest episodes of those new Mickey shorts, the one about them going to Potato Land. And I think there's a little picture place you can take pictures at in there. And we didn't find it, but there wasn't much else for us to do at Hollywood Studios. I mean, we did it all, and we were done, by 1:30, 2:00. We weren't going to eat there, and all that stuff. Our characters out. You can take pictures with them, but you can't go up to them. So you can do like selfies, and they're in the background. And honestly, you don't see many. I was a little disappointed because I like seeing them out. In Hollywood Studios, other than Ray and Chewbacca, and I don't know the name of the Resistance spy, they had their little area that they posed in that you could walk up. You were distanced from them, but you could take pictures and engage with them. I saw some stormtroopers standing by Kylo Ren's spaceship, his fighter. But but I didn't see Kylo Ren. The only other character I saw at Hollywood Studios as we were walking out, tucked away in an alley in a corner, was Genie. I did not see any other characters at Hollywood Studios. We did do Animal Kingdom. We did Animal Kingdom on day 2 in the morning. We waited. The first thing we did was we waited about 70 minutes to do Flight of Passage. And then we did the Navi River journey, which I thought was pretty cool. We did the safari. Fun fact about the safari, the line that they had set up, the queue was so winding, and it went fast. It went relatively fast, but it was a long line, and it stretched backstage. So at Animal Kingdom, we actually, part of the queue to get on the safari, they opened the doors backstage, and we were circled all the way around through back where the air conditioning units are, back where cast members were coming and going to go to work with their lunches packed and everything. I kind of called it our free behind the scenes tour. We did do Animal Kingdom. We did the safari. We did the Pandora stuff. That was about it. We didn't do the river ride. We did Dinosaur. I'm gonna tell you about Dinosaur. I think Dinosaur would be a 10 times better ride if it just wasn't so darn loud. The audio in Dinosaur is just way too loud. And I don't mind loud noises, but it's loud to the point where it's not enjoyable. If they turn down the volume in Dinosaur, I think it would be a better attraction. Because I like the Jeep. I like the Jeep doing all the stuff and peeling out and getting out of there. But it's just so loud. It really makes it unpleasant. So yeah, we did do Animal Kingdom, but not much. We didn't walk through any of the trails or anything. The second day was really rough for us because we wanted to do Animal Kingdom and Epcot, and we definitely wanted to go back to Magic Kingdom. So we were trying to do 3 parks in one day. So we literally left Animal Kingdom, and it was starting to rain. And we got to Epcot at 1:20, 1:30. And we thought that maybe they'd let us in early because there wasn't a lot of people. I mean, Epcot did not have a lot of people. And the woman at the turnstile said, "No, it's not letting you in." She goes, "We don't control whether we can let you in or not." They said sometimes it lets people in early, but it didn't. So yeah, Andrew, as you noticed, and Danny, I looked it up. I couldn't find you. We weren't on all the legacy pictures at Epcot. I was trying to find people I knew who may have one of the legacy pictures. And I found Andrew's. I found my mother's. I found mine that I took with my wife on our honeymoon. And I was trying to find them, especially you guys that are patrons of the show. I was trying to find yours. And Danny, I looked yours up. I did Daniel Ulrich. I did Danny Ulrich. It didn't come up. So maybe there's not one there. I don't know. But yeah, then we did Epcot in day 2. And like I said, in Epcot, we didn't do a ton of stuff. And then we went to Magic Kingdom. Epcot is probably... Magic Kingdom and Epcot are very emotional to me. Leaving Magic Kingdom every night, I cry. I have tears in my eyes every night, every time I leave Magic Kingdom. Because I just keep thinking, what if this is my last time? And it's just such a great experience. I just love it so much. And Epcot to me is really special because of some memories I have with Mimi. I was crying I was crying on the Nemo ride with her because that's a real special moment we had there when she was younger. So being able to do that with her was really, really important. Let's see, some more questions. I love it. I love you guys are asking questions. Was the Haunted Mansion queue back to normal? Do you still miss the intro? Nope, it's back to normal. Back to normal. You walked in, they did the stretching room. And yeah, it was regular Regular queue, regular everything in Haunted Mansion. Dinosaur was much better when it was Countdown to Extinction. Same. So yeah, what's funny is when we were at Disneyland, we didn't do the Indiana Jones ride, but now, I mean, obviously we want to when we go back to Disneyland. I think it's the same track and everything. It's just the scenery and the story's different. But I think the track and what you do, like at the end of Dinosaur, when the big Carnosaur comes out, that's at Indiana Jones. That's when the boulder starts coming at you. It's the same exact track. So yeah, the legacy pictures. So at Epcot now, instead of when you walk in front of Spaceship Earth, where you used to have all the panels up, all those are gone. So that whole area in front of Spaceship Earth has been completely redone. And then so outside the turnstile. So once you pass through security and you're in that area between the security and the ticket area where you get in the park before the park entrance, in that space, they have there are two areas set up on the ends, and it's colored now. The tiles are not just that silver, they're like different colors, and they have instructions on how you can find your tile there, but they've moved them out of the interior of the park and into the area between security and the park itself. There's a lot of things going on at Epcot that are changing. There's walls built all over the place for renovation, which is fine. It didn't bother me, but I mean, Epcot's it's a half a day park right now. Like I said, Test Track was down. Spaceship Earth was quick to get on. We did Nemo, we did The Land, we did Soarin'. We did not do Journey to Imagination. And then we did Mexico. The longest line we waited in at Epcot was to ride the Mexico Pavilion boat ride, which wasn't even all that great. It was okay. And then we were waiting in line to do Frozen Ever After when Frozen Ever After went down. And so then we left. Epcot, when it's done with the stuff they're doing, is going to be really, really cool. It's going to be a great park again. Yeah, the legacy pictures are up, but they're just moved. So the Tron coaster area, yeah, on our Instagram, I shared the picture I took of the sign, and it's back behind where Toontown used to be. So the area in the Magic Kingdom, it's not Toontown, it's like some kind of circus areas where Dumbo circus rides are. And in the back, Goofy's Barnstormer is still there. And then behind Barnstormer, between Barnstormer and then if you keep going in that direction, it's sort of in the area where Space Mountain is. That's where they're building the Tron. So the Tron ride. It looks kind of cool. I mean, like I said, I shared some pictures on our Instagram showing what the construction looked like. And it looks like I don't think it'll be ready this year. I think we're looking at a 2022 opening for the Tron light cycles. There's some things about Magic Kingdom. Again, we'll do our Magic Kingdom episode. I mean, Belle's Castle is all right. It's nothing. It's not. Some people hype it up to be a second castle. It's not really. It's just a restaurant, and it's a small castle, but they built it up to make it look like it's up on a hill. So it was okay. But again, not a lot of characters out. Like if it wasn't in the little cavalcades with them driving around, I didn't see any characters. Captain Jack Sparrow, he was the only character out in the open in an area where people could see him, and that was in Adventureland. People Mover was working. Yep. We did it both nights. As a matter of fact, my son loved it, so we did it like 2 times in a row. We got on it right before the fireworks show started, and so we rode it around, and then we immediately got right back on. So here's a little funny thing. We'll talk about this in our podcast episode 2. Um, on our second time around, the People Mover, the fireworks show was ending, and we got some pretty good views of the castle from the People Mover, which was really cool. But I saw something I'd never seen before. I know they do it, but I'd never seen it before in person. And it just so happens as we were going by, it was coming right at us, and that is the cast member who's Tinkerbell coming flying on that wire from the top of Cinderella's castle all the way across Tomorrowland and disappearing out in she was coming right over us, right towards us when we were there. And I had never seen that before. And I was kind of like, oh man, I could never do that. That's a brave person. Yeah, and most of the characters, yeah, they just weren't around. I mean, at Epcot, over in the corner when you walked in, Goofy and Pluto were there. But I mean, maybe we weren't really looking for them. I'm sorry, people running around the neighborhood. Maybe people weren't looking for them, but I just didn't see, unless they were going through like an Animal Kingdom they rode by on the barges, on the lake, on the river. And but we didn't walk around World Showcase either at Epcot. We didn't do that. And I have a feeling some of them may have been hanging out around World Showcase too. But yeah, at Epcot, they came through on like a carriage, like the princesses came through on a carriage. You could wave at them, but I miss it. I mean, I miss the characters being out. I think they're going to come back soon, but they just don't hang out. I mean, they don't. It's sad. I mean, it's not sad. I liked it when they engaged with kids and signed the autograph books and did all that stuff. I think that's just really cool. And none of that's happening right now. But it was fun. I did mention this in our episode this week. The park, again, maybe I'm just getting older, but they are very understaffed. I mean, I told my wife we could walk out and go to HR and get a job. They're so understaffed and they're working hard, and the cast members, God bless them, but they're tired. My impression is that the cast members were very tired. They didn't engage with customers the way I was used to. There wasn't people out greeting and waving, and I mean, it was very businesslike. Getting on and off the rides. I mean, they were pleasant. They were worried about you being, falling down, but you didn't get a lot of the deep, immersive cast member engagement. And the Haunted Mansion, a little bit. Some of the cast members played their role, kind of that, role. But most places, they were just wearing a costume and being normal. Like they weren't in character, maybe per se, very much. That was a little disappointing. The park was dirtier than usual. I mean, one of the things I think I mentioned this week in the Jungle Cruise line, one of the garbage cans obviously hadn't been serviced and emptied in a long time. And there was just garbage piled up on top of it, and it was overflowing onto the ground. And if you were standing in line, you looked over, people had just dropped water bottles and masks and bottle caps and everywhere. And it was just, it was just kind of sad. I wish they had more custodial cast members, and it didn't seem like there was many garbage cans out as normally. So, Andrew, I heard rumors at Flynn's Arcade. I didn't see any evidence of a Flynn's Arcade being built. Again, I may have just missed it, but I didn't see that anywhere. Carousel of Progress. I went on Carousel of Progress. So here's an interesting take on Carousel of Progress. The show has not changed, but they clearly, when they introduce it and on the signage outside, it's referred to as Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. So I think kind of their way of not updating the scene is to market it as an attraction that has not been changed because it is Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. This is the Carousel of Progress that Walt Disney wanted, and that's the way it's marketed now. Is more of a nostalgic look into what Walt imagined having at the park, because it's on the signage and everything. It says Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress, and when they introduced the show, this is the guy makes a point of telling you all about how Walt Disney wanted this, and he designed this, and he did this, and he did that. So they've kept it, that way. I think it could be redone, um, to be like the 50s, the 60s, the 90s, the 2000s. But I'll say this about the Carousel of Progress too, like the curtains and the carpet, because there's a lot of carpet in there on where it meets the stage area and the curtains. I mean, if you look close enough, like where the lights and the carpet, where the lights are, the carpet is cut around the lights for the stage. I mean, the carpet is starting to fray, and the curtains were dirty and starting to fray. And it's kind of one of those things. I mean, to me, that's just general maintenance. I mean, the ride is the ride, but the curtain for the ride is dirty and fraying. The carpet near the stage is coming up. It's not down. It's starting to get frayed. Just change the carpet. You know, shut the ride down for a little while and redo it. I mean, maybe it's on schedule to do that, but it's those little pieces that really stood out to me that was disappointing. And again, I wasn't disappointed in the experience. It's like, I mean, maybe my expectations are too high. Yeah. Yeah, they had to bring back the college program. I see that. The restaurants are relatively, I mean, there were a lot of young people working the Cosmic Rays. They were working really hard. I mean, you could tell that those kids, they're really working hard. And I felt, I didn't feel bad for them, but I made a point of thanking, the people who were helping us, because they were just, and, some customers, some people who are there, they're, especially food service, people didn't order fries and they go back with their receipt. I didn't get my fries. I needed fries. And it's like, you didn't order fries. And so you're just going to bully this kid into giving you more fries or whatever. I mean, just, it's that kind of stuff that annoys me. But um, yeah, they need more people. They need more experienced people. I would say one of the things there's a lot of young people there who are trying, but I didn't see a lot of the leadership and the management piece engaging with them and walking. Like, I did see one day manager. I'm assuming it was an area manager. She was not in regular costume, but she had one of those garbage grabbers. And I saw one person like that, and she was frantically trying to keep up with things that were thrown on the ground and keep up with stuff. But people just walking around and engaging with you and being pleasant and wave. I mean, we had buttons on at one point, so they engaged with us because we were wearing the buttons, and it prompted them to say, "Hey, congratulations!" My wife and I were doing like 20 years for our 20th anniversary. My son was birthday coming up, so he had a birthday badge, and they were like, "Oh, happy birthday!" But if we weren't wearing those badges, they wouldn't have engaged with us. And there wasn't. Again, I don't want it to sound like it was terrible. It was a very good Disney vacation. I would go back tomorrow. I mean, don't get me wrong. But when you have sort of a vision in your head, you can tell that certain things are just not the way they should be, the way they used to be. They're just not. And I guess that's, the park leadership right now is caring more about making money than anything. Um, you know, most people are pleasant. Most people are kind. Most people, do the right thing. But, when you got young kids who are trying to do their best and they're working hard and they're not getting paid much, and then you're not giving them much in the way of guidance and support, things will break down. But I would say they're desperate for people. I think they're definitely cutting costs in areas they shouldn't be cutting costs. Um, and I think the cleanliness, I think that's the big thing. They need that. I mean, God bless them. The janitor, I mean, the custodial cast members who were there were working. but there weren't many. I mean, I used to see white uniformed custodial cast members everywhere, everywhere. And I'm going to tell you, there were times where we would go an hour and I wouldn't see one, maybe 2 hours, and we didn't see one. And that's so unusual. Usually they're all over the place and they just weren't. But you can tell. I mean, even I stopped and picked up some trash off the ground because I was just embarrassed. There was food in the ground and no one was there to pick it up, sweep it up or anything. And that's just unheard of at Disney. I mean, in the line for Jungle Cruise and in the line for Thunder Mountain Railroad, there were parts of that queue that were so dirty. I was embarrassed. I thought this looks like, Joe Schmuckatelli's Traveling Roadshow, the way the condition of the queue in a couple of the spots. Yeah, we didn't do any Disney Springs. When we go back, Danny, probably in November, like we're really strongly considering a Thanksgiving trip. And because we don't have to get a resort room, yay, we can make that plan. We might slip a Disney Springs day in. I don't know if we'll do a water park. Kids aren't really big into water parks, but possibly a Disney Springs day. The problem with Disney Springs Day is you got to be prepared to spend your money because it's eating and shopping and decorations, Christmas. Yeah. When we honeymooned there 20 years ago, the Christmas decorations came up because we were there right around Thanksgiving. And so the Christmas decor was up. Yeah. Couldn't tour. Yeah, we could do a resort tour. Yeah, you had mentioned something about the monorail. Yeah, they need servicing bad. They need servicing bad. We got stuck in one on day 2, then one was broken on day 1 at the end of the night. I'm gonna tell you, you want some angry people. The only time I saw the crowd really start to get angry was the end of night 1 when that monorail broke. And there were easily, I don't know how many thousands of people waiting to get on monorails. And when that thing broke down and there was no monorail service, like it wasn't the express monorail, the transportation and ticket center was down. They couldn't get the resort monorail rolling. It was starting to get ugly. There were people that started to chant. There were people chanting, full refund, full refund. I felt I was embarrassed. But we did get on the no, I'm sorry. I was incorrect. The express monorail went down on night 1. The resort monorail was still rolling, but most people were not trying to get back to the resorts because the resort monorail loop only goes through Contemporary. It doesn't stop at Polynesian now and Grand Floridian. So if you weren't staying at the Contemporary or the Grand Floridian, no one was getting on the resort monorail. Well, all the people who were waiting for the monorail had to then go on the resort monorail. And day 2, on our way back on day 2, we just went to the ferries and piled in, 600 of us. I don't think people didn't care, Andrew. I just think people are tunnel vision. They don't see it. I don't think people intentionally were not doing the right thing. Like, I never saw anyone at the park literally throw their garbage on the ground. What I think is happening is there are fewer. I am almost positive there are fewer garbage cans out. And the reason there are fewer cans out is because there are fewer custodial cast members. So if you don't have enough cast members to clean the cans regularly to keep them from overflowing, you can't have all the cans out. So I think they strategically removed some of the receptacles from some of the queue lines. Well, if you've got food and drink in the queue line and there's nowhere to throw it away, I mean, people were just putting it in the corner. They were putting it on a little shelf, thinking somebody will come by and get it, but it ended up just going everywhere. So I don't think people were intentionally throwing their garbage on the ground. I think there were fewer cans. There were fewer people emptying the cans, and some of the cans that were in hard to get to areas um, had just were not being serviced regularly at all. So I'll have to talk, Andrew. I'll have to talk to your friend about that to see what his thoughts are. Yeah, there is a walking path in Magic Kingdom to TTC. Yeah, we had already walked enough that we were dead, man. So I had pinched a nerve in my back weeks and weeks ago moving, and then a couple weeks before the trip, um, messed up my left foot bad. All the tendons, all the ligaments in my toes got bent the wrong way. So I was hobbling around real bad. I was walking, but at the end of the night, I was in some pain. We were like, we're done walking. Yeah, after the closing, I don't know if they're cleaning or not. I mean, I didn't notice the parks being dirty when we arrived each day. I just think that during the day, the numbers of them out and about are significantly down. And like I told my wife, if we were retired, I would apply for a job there tomorrow. I mean, I would work one of those jobs if I was retired and just live in Orlando and do that and go to the parks on my days off. So, but I get it. I mean, I really believe they're doing the best they can. And I think they're delivering as good of an experience as they can. But I think there are things that it's literally a matter of priority and hiring. Because believe me, they're making money right now. They're not losing money at the parks anymore. Because I paid regular prices and there was no Epcot monorail. There is now. The Epcot monorail is back. I wish so if the Epcot monorail had been working on our trip on day 2, we would have left our car at Epcot. We would have just left the car in the preferred parking lot at Epcot and monorailed to Magic Kingdom. And at the end of the night, monorailed back to Epcot and gotten in our car. Also, when it's raining, the parking lot cast members disappear, and the signage they have for where to go is poorly designed. And so on day 2, we could not find the preferred lot because it was raining and we kept making the wrong turn. And that got very, very frustrating. It was up over the weekend, but I read online it's been down the last 2 days. Are you talking about attendance, Danny? I'll say this about park passes. We booked our park passes less than, I'd say, 2 days before the before we went. We were going on a Sunday and a Monday. Sunday, every park had park reservations available. We had no trouble making a reservation for Sunday. All 4 parks had reservations available. Monday, the only parks with reservations available for us were Epcot and Animal Kingdom. You couldn't get a reservation to start your day Monday. I think that's because people arrive for their trip and they start their trips on Monday. Sunday's usually a travel day. Epcot monorail down. Yeah, I believe it. I mean, look, when we were there 2 days. I mean, we were there 2 days. We were in the monorail 3 times, and 2 out of 3 times there was a problem with the monorail. And again, those cast members that are running it, they're just driving it and they're just helping people get on, and they get the brunt of the frustration. I think the numbers are just going to keep going up, Danny. I've already told my wife if we go in November, it's going to be jam packed. Disney's not telling everyone the percentage that they're letting in, But I think by Thanksgiving, it's going to be 100% capacity. They're not going to be limiting capacity. I hope they do not bring Fast Pass back though, because that will make the standby lines be unbearable. The Fast Pass system kills the standby lines. And if they try to do what they're doing in Paris with the pay system for Fast Pass where you pay extra, there's no chance in the world we're doing that. We will not pay after spending thousands of dollars to go to the park. We're not paying more to get Fast Passes. That's just not going to happen. So there's that. All right, guys. Well, listen, we've been on for about an hour. We've unpacked a lot about our trip. You guys have been great asking all these questions and engaging. I really, really do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. Mimi and I will be doing some episodes about the parks coming up in the next few weeks. We also have some other plans for guests on the show coming up. So the next few weeks ought to be pretty exciting. We do appreciate you guys supporting us and listening to the show and joining us here on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. We are trying to get to 100 subscribers as soon as possible. We are hoping to do more with our YouTube channel as time goes on, but we do appreciate your time with us tonight. And if you've enjoyed the show, give us a thumbs up. Tell your friends and neighbors about things, and hopefully they can enjoy our content as well. So, Andrew, one last thing, right? To me, the Fast Pass makes sense if you're not alone, if you're alone, not with family. I mean, possibly, but there's single rider lines for a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you're a single rider, you can get on pretty quickly. Danny, no problem, man. I get it. I know you're listening, and I do appreciate it. Mimi and I enjoyed doing the show. We enjoyed talking about Disney and sharing that conversation with all of you every week. So no problem at all. I do appreciate everything. Tell your friends out there, Danny, about this great Disney podcast, the people you're meeting, and we'd love to have more listeners out there in your neck of the woods. Andrew, I'll definitely tell the family. Thank you for your kind words. We really do appreciate it. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. We've been on for about an hour. Good stuff. I really do appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And until next time, we'll see you real soon.